You're listening to the AfterBuzz TV network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your number one source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Gene. Johnson.
From the AfterBuzz Studios in Los Angeles, California, presented by Maria Menounos and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AfterBuzz TV's The Last Ship After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AfterBuzz TV's The Last Ship After Show.
What's up, AfterBuzzers? Welcome to AfterBuzz TV with 27 million weekly downloads. We are your number one source for After Show Network. This is the Last Ship After Show. It's season 1, episode 5, El Toro. I'm Charlotte Broadbent. I'm your host tonight. Bobby is unfortunately out sick. We're excited for him to get back next week. We've got our usual panel though, Marina and Monse with us.
Hello.
Hi. Glad to be back.
Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine. I'm just glad to be back.
I'm just so excited that we have a great guest with us tonight. We have Alex Fernandez with us in the studio. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
And I have to say, this is you're the person that I've probably felt most for this whole season. Your character in this episode, it was very heart-wrenching.
Oh, good. Yeah, we had a lot of fun doing it, and I spent most of the episode sort of just cowering in a corner, worrying about my daughters, and that makes it good for a nice surprise at the end when I step in.
Yeah. Well, you didn't really have an option, right?
Yeah.
It was that, or they would kill everyone. They would kill your daughters, like Karina.
Yeah.
So you did an amazing job.
I was actually shocked. I did not see that coming. I was watching the episode last night after work, and usually I watch whatever until because I get home at like midnight. So I watch whatever I can, and then I rewatch it in the morning. I had set my timer on, and when it turned off, I turned my TV back on. I was like, I need to finish this episode. It's so good that I didn't even go to sleep when I was supposed to. I was not expecting your character to do that. I thought it was such a good twist. I honestly was like, what are they gonna do, take him back on the boat? There's another problem, and I thought that was gonna become a plot. But I loved that you had to defend your family like that. I agree. I haven't felt for anyone the way I felt for your character, for your family. And it's I feel like it's very difficult for a minor role to really have that effect on the audience, because it wasn't one of the main characters, but you definitely held your own in the episode. It was wonderful. I felt for you, and I hope we see you again. And I hope your villagers are great, and I hope you guys are surviving.
Everyone in Bocanakawa is doing well now. Thanks, I'm in charge.
Yes.
But I think the editors did a really great job, because sometimes when you have a character like mine, they spend a lot of time watching that character, and you're sort of tipping your hand that this character is going to do something important. And they did a really good job of sort of leaving me in the background, and just as a guy who's being abused by El Toro, and that allows me to step in at the end, and everybody's surprised. And so
It really did. And and I was surprised too, but the way that it was done, I mean, you're a quiet character. Ervin was just somebody that was very reserved. You could tell that he was very, very scared. And that was the last thing, like you said, you expected from your character. How did you feel when you got the script and you got the role? Mentally, that must have been pretty challenging to play that role. How did you feel?
Well, I actually was excited about it, because I think that it's one thing for characters like Eric Dane's character and Adam Baldwin's character to be these courageous men who this is their job and they fly into the face of danger. But it's a lot more interesting, and the idea of doing something courageous even though you're terrified, even though you don't have any skills that are necessary to do something about this situation. I think that's what makes it moving, is that a human being who is in the worst possible situation is forced to do something heroic for his family and for his people. And I think it's very telling what kind of guy Ervin is, that at the end he could step into the dictator role and instead drops the knife and says, now we're going to live the way humans should be living. And I was very excited about that.
And the best line of the episode was when Chandler said, now this is your village, and Ervin said, no,
It's ours.
It's ours. I was like, amen. That was the best ending to that episode that could have possibly happened. I got shivers. I got shivers right now just saying it, because it's such a great thing to say and a great way to get everybody together. And that's what, at this time, with what's going on, everyone needs to do. Everyone needs to come together, not do what El Toro is doing, and we'll get into that, but by splitting people and kind of trying to take the higher road and think that he is superior to everybody else.
Yeah. In any situation, people have to stay together if they're going to survive. And in a situation like that, that's the only way to survive. And El Toro was negatively, selfishly doing his thing, and that kind of implodes on itself. But when people work together, it kind of expands. And I think Hank Steinberg, who writes this show, is the creator of the show. I worked with him on his other show, Without a Trace, quite a bit. And he knows exactly how to tug at your heartstrings and make it all very realistic. And it's a pleasure to work with him. So
yeah. That's definitely true.
Not to divert from the last show, but since you brought up Without a Trace, that's interesting, because I read an interview where you said that your character in Without a Trace was probably your favorite. Interview was about a year ago. Maybe you feel different, but it's the same writer, the same episode that you're in.
Isn't that funny?
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So do you feel like that about this character too?
I do love this guy, Ervin. I was really excited we sat down and watched the episode a little bit ago, and I was very excited to see how it turned out. And I love the way Hank writes, and the character that he wrote for me on Without a Trace is still, if not the favorite, it's one of the favorites that I've done. Yeah, it's one of them. It's up there.
So you hadn't seen the episode till you watched it?
Yeah.
Right now?
I hadn't seen the episode until I saw it.
Until you saw it about 2 hours ago?
And then when I saw it.
Was the
No, I was going to watch it, and then they said that we were going to get together and watch it, and I said, well, I'm going to watch it fresh with
Yeah,
Awesome.
you
so
all.
glad you did.
Wow. So Marina, what was some of his reactions while watching? Was he quiet?
Well, we just made a few comments. He commented on where they shot, which I'll let you explain. And it's very exciting because it looked so realistic. It looked like they were in the jungle, and they really weren't, right?
Yeah, we were in Arcadia in the Botanical Gardens.
Wow.
But it really did look like the jungle out there. And they had like these ponds with these koi fish, and Eric Dane tried to catch one. Not for real, but like he had like a stick and a string and see if he could coax one of the fish to bite on his line. It really did look like that.
So it was a fun set.
Oh yeah, Eric and Adam, and they were all really nice. And it's not an easy show to shoot, as you can see. There's a lot of stuff to do, and they are with the guns and the packs, and it's not easy. And for everyone to be in such good spirits all the time and working, friendly together, it shows how good guys they are.
That's interesting to hear, because sometimes when you watch these shows, you wonder what everything's like off camera. If everyone's kind of cool with each other, and if it's fun, because if it's fun, it makes a good show.
Yeah. And
you can kind of tell if that is, I think, somewhat tension, but that's good to know, because this is such a great show that it was a fun set.
I have been on a lot of shows that are not like this. And this one was not like this. Everybody is in a great mood, and I mean, these are, all shows take lots and long days of 8, 10, 12, 14 hours, but this one I think has even longer hours because of all of the very technical military things. Everything that you see on this show that has to do with military procedure is absolutely precise. There's I believe he's a Navy guy on set who's always making sure that everything's Michael Bay is famous for having military people who are just keeping everything absolutely accurate. So that takes a long time. And so for the day to be that long, people kind of have to like each other.
How long did it take for you guys to film this episode? Or
I think I worked 4 days on it. But they must have all these shows they have to shoot them all in 8 days.
Yeah.
If they want to stay on schedule.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure this stayed on schedule as far as I know.
That's pretty incredible. Yeah. Because hour-long shows, they usually have to stay within, like you said, 8 hours, but it's not a mini action movie that we're getting every week.
A very simple thing is that if you shoot a TV show like, say, Devious Maids, on the show Devious Maids, it's all mostly on these sound stages.
Right.
So you move from one stage to the next, and we're all basically in the same location. But this thing, it's like they're on this destroyer, and then they're in Arcadia, and then they're, it's a hard bunch of moves, and it's a testament to the crew and the actors that everybody stays focused and does a good job. And it was pretty close. I think they shot some of the last stuff of this episode last in the season. And I remember Eric sort of did a speech to the crew telling them just how great they were and how we all stuck together. And it was true. Everybody really, you could see that everybody really likes each other. And that shows up when those guys are communicating with each other about what should we do. Yeah. You could tell that they're on the same page.
Yeah, definitely. And let's get into a little bit of this episode, because we'll skip into kind of when they follow through the river and they pass the boat on El Toro. It's Slattery, Chandler, Danny, Burke, and Gator. Gator. my accent.
We like Gator.
And they're going round into the back, and they stop after they see El Toro. But don't they think that it's a boat where all the sick people were?
They don't know what to make of it, but when the guy suggests that they mount the boat to find out what's going on, he says absolutely not. So he assumes it's sick people who and the ship just crashed as a result of people getting sick.
And we find out that the people that El Toro his village or his people, they are the only people that they've escaped, and they've got past the virus. They're safe, they're clean, they're healthy, and they don't have the virus. But they're very smart because they have traps around their camp area. So when people come in, they know, because they get hurt, which happened to Gator. He stepped on, it looked to me
almost like a bear trap, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a snap.
Yeah.
And it snapped on his leg.
And
calf muscle.
And once again, this show is just so great, because when it was pulled out, it was it's gross.
I like when Chandler said, "I'm not going to lie to you, this is going to hurt."
But another reason why we love him, because he's straightforward.
Yeah.
And there's not many captains that you see that lead the way, that lead the pack. And it might be different in the Navy, but in war and in countries, it's never the president or the leader that is actually leading people into the war. But that's what Chandler's doing. He's taking it. He sent Rachel back. He said, no, this isn't safe for you. We're going in. They went in, and they quickly realize that something's not quite right. Here, and it's probably going to be trouble. And that's when everything comes together. Your character is introduced really when it goes into the dinner. And this was a very intense scene. We have El Toro at the head of the table, and El Toro and Chandler had already had a head-to-head. They'd already had a disagreement. You can see Slattery in the back shaking his head, not agreeing with anything that's being said. So when we get to the dinner, it's just a very interesting scenario. Obviously, Erwin is petrified. He looks to be shaking, and we realize that it's his daughter that is catering on the table. And as soon as the connection comes into play that it's your daughter, it sparked into my head that this isn't right. Is that what you guys thought?
Yeah, and it also makes sense that he's acting how he's acting, right? He's ashamed, he feels defeated, but there's nothing he can do. Yeah. He and El Toro is using your daughters and other girls for his pleasure and his service, and they're living almost like slaves, like they mentioned.
Yeah.
They are. They're catching fish for him. They're cleaning and fixing for him. And one of the things I'm terrified of is that these Navy men have now showed up. And as bad as things are, the status quo is being disturbed. And this could be bad news for all of us, because at least we're alive. My argument in the scene is that we're safe from the virus, we're alive, and everything else we're going to have to put up with for now.
How was your character dealing with, because obviously your daughters were being abused sexually by him. How was your character trying to deal with this?
The way I just saw it is that I am responsible for all these people. My family, of course, but all of these people, because I'm the former mayor of this village. And I've made some sort of bargain with El Toro, which I don't, obviously he's got all the cards, but I'm the one who represents them. And so as long as we can keep El Toro happy, everybody can be safe. And I was just thinking that even El Toro sexually abusing my daughter is somehow there's a justification of at least she's alive. And that sounds like a terrible thing to say, but in that really harsh situation, you kind of have to prioritize, you know? Because if you stand up, obviously he has guards, he has guns, he has everything. He's either give it to him or he kills you and
Still gets it.
Still takes it. Yeah.
Exactly.
And that happens, right? When Karina stands up for herself and she calls him a pig during the dinner, they just put her on a boat and send her across the river to the sick people.
Even when I stand up and get her under control and beg his forgiveness, she still does it. So I think that Chandler and Slattery show up at a time when Delgado is at a place where he's been holding everything just steady, and now all this happens, and you see that it was a waste. Why did I go along with everything El Toro said when he was still going to kill my daughter? He was still going to take my other daughter. It's time to do something about this, you know. So
definitely, I mean, and
that's
when
the height of drama. When drama gets, when you find a situation that it's at its worst and it can only go one way or another, you know, that's what makes a good episode.
Yeah, completely. And you're right. The Navy kind of, and Chandler, and especially Slattery. Slattery was the one that was really picking at him and saying things, and Chandler had to say, Mike, stop, because he was making it worse. And I think that was making your daughter think, he's right, I shouldn't stand up for this. And they were rocking the boat and allowing her to realize that this isn't okay.
Yeah.
And this is not what should be happening, you know?
Right. I mean, I think I didn't even feel like the badness came in at the dinner table. I felt uneasy immediately when the whole thing with the Mason's leg, when they attacked his leg, and then they said, we have the antidote. We are the only ones that can save him. Right there, they just said, we have the power. From the very beginning of when we meet El Toro or all those people in that village, I immediately was like, oh, this is going to be an issue. They took their weapons. They're already saying we have the power to save one of your own, and you either come along with us or we kill you right here and there. You know, like if they could have, we didn't even have to know more of the story, but El Toro wanted them to see, I'm in control. Look at how I'm manipulating everyone. Yeah. Everyone is at my feet, including the mayor. You know, it's just so terrible to see at that point that if the mayor feels the need, like you just said, that you have to find a silver lining. That is my daughter, but at least we're alive. And for you to be able to express not just being terrified, but like you said, like ashamed as a father, like you were able to express all of those emotions just sitting there at the dinner table when you were looking down. I felt all those things. I didn't think you were just scared. You were just kind of like, I can't believe I have to do this.
Right.
And I really like that you mentioned that when the Navy came in, they were interrupting.
Yeah. Because
we don't see that way, right? We see, oh, they're coming, they're going to save everyone. But in your mindset, they were intruding. And it could be a bad thing, right? Because in our heads, we're like, oh, this is great. They're going to save the people. We don't see the other side, which is your side as the mayor, that, you know what, this could be actually trouble for us and not help us.
There's that saying, you know, the devil you know is better than the devil you don't. It's like these guys show up. I don't know what's going to happen by them showing up. Right now, this thing is pretty bad, but at least I know what kind of bad it is. I don't know what's going to happen when these guys start, you know, messing things around. And you say about El Toro, the actor who plays El Toro in this episode is a guy named Jose Zuniga. Who he and I have worked together a couple times before this, and we're really good friends, and he's just wonderful in the episode. He's so...
I agree.
He doesn't play it like... he plays it with a lot of smile and a lot of charm, and you can see that he's enjoying himself, and that that's not an easy role to play either. You can easily get really tired of a character like that very quickly, but he didn't do that, and that shows what a good actor he is. He and I are both, you know, we're both Latino actors in Los Angeles, so sometimes he's the drug lord, sometimes I'm the drug lord, sometimes he gets killed, sometimes I get killed, but this time I came out on top.
Yeah.
Do you believe that your character came out better in this episode, or you wish it had stayed the way it was? Because your daughter did end up dying, but then in some respect, it's relieving her of the pain that she was going through.
I think we are better off, and I'm better off, but I think we paid a very high price for it.
Definitely.
A very high price. I don't think there's any question about it. I think these things had to change because eventually El Toro would just use up these people and kill them all and move someplace else. Or, you know, it's just, he was never going to do anything other than that.
It was like whatever it was a convenient thing for him.
Yeah.
It's just whatever in the moment is convenient, he was gonna do it.
Yeah, he has a sexual relationship with my one daughter. He gets angry, sends her off, and then just takes the other daughter.
Yeah.
That's when it becomes obvious that there's
He
no
doesn't
point to try to protect all this. He is going to do what he wants, and he has to be taken down. You know.
Yeah.
But we wouldn't have been able to do it without the boys in blue rushing in on their on their boat.
Definitely. And there was some kind of an interaction went on where they bargained, and El Toro got angry because Chandler wasn't straightforward with him. He didn't tell him what he was there for, which, who blames him? Everyone else that he's gone in and said, if he'd have gone in and said, yeah, well, we're here to get the monkeys so we can try and get the vaccine because it's promising. I mean,
They would want it.
exactly, and they would want to capture him, but El Toro was somewhat understanding. I didn't think he was going to react like that at all. I think there's more to it, and I think we're going to find that out in coming episodes, but he gives them the monkeys. They get the monkeys, they put the monkeys on the boat. That final scene before they leave to get back on the boat, they see your daughter being taken and put on the boat. And Slattery is the one that is really disturbed by this. And he ends up getting punched. Him and Danny get in an altercation with El Toro and his men. Slattery gets punched. He's bleeding, or it's with the gun.
With the gun.
With the gun.
Both of us catch that thing. We both get a gun, a butt of the gun.
Well, exactly. Then when that happens, then you get your character gets beaten up by El Toro and his people, and I mean it's just such a terrible. I mean, that was such a heart-wrenching moment when your daughter is being taken away and you're being hit by the guns, by the butt of the guns, and there's nothing that any of them can do because El Toro and his men are the ones that are armed. And I mean, this was probably one of my favorite scene. Well, I feel terrible saying that, but for action-wise, it was one of my favorite scenes of the episode, just because it was helpless. Yeah. I mean, there was nothing that the U.S. Navy or you and your family could do, and they made that very clear.
And I think that that scene is what makes the next scene, when they've gotten their boat, they've gotten their monkeys, they're off, they're safe, they can just go, and they've done their mission, and they decide to just stop, and we're going to go back. That's what makes that such an exciting scene, because when he says we can't leave those people like that, it's not just rhetoric. We saw how horrible it is for these people, and it means something when they decide to come back and when they show up in the shadows.
And this was the first time that we actually saw Slattery being a good person and
Completely.
being emotional, because up to this point we haven't liked him very much.
No, I thought he was the bad guy. Hands up, I thought Slattery was the bad guy. And in this episode, I couldn't believe that he was the one. He was the one that said, we have to go back.
Because he's a father.
He said, I have a daughter, you have a daughter, this is not right. We have to do something, because he knows that they are hopeless.
Yeah.
They couldn't do anything. They didn't have any training for fighting. No weapons.
They had
nothing.
no weapons.
And once they leave, nobody is going to come back.
Right.
There's nobody left. If they leave, there's no one left to do anything about it. So.
Right.
And I think it was that point when Slattery said, we both have children, whatever the exact words were, that every single person watching that, whether you have a child or not, but especially if you have children, your heart just sinks and makes you feel for them. And whether they have weapons or not, they have to go back and they have to do what they can. They came to hunt. Those were the words. They came to hunt, and they go back, and I thought they were crazy. What did you guys think? They were going back without weapons.
That was amazing. I absolutely love the way it was shot and the way it was portrayed for us to see. Like, the minute that they start to go hunt, you see Eric Dane slowly come into the shadow with the bushes. Like, that is amazing. It is that dark. That's how they have to do it. They have to creep into this village to help everyone. And I thought it was shot great, and I thought it was portrayed well. Because sometimes you can shoot something well, but if you don't show it well to the audience, it doesn't come across.
Yeah.
It was done very well. I love the way that they were able to slowly take down everyone. And I liked how they mentioned, I counted these many guards over here. They already knew what they were going into.
They're training.
They're trained, you know? And I love that. I hope that if this ever happens, I do hope that the U.S. Navy would do something like that in real, you know, I hope that they would go back and save people in Nicaragua or Costa Rica or anywhere. Like, that's just what we hope they would do. Yeah. But I really loved the way it was shot. I thought it definitely made a big impact.
And they gave the good sense that in order for them to be successful in this little mission at night, is the first thing they have to do is kill people who have guns so that they can get guns.
Yeah.
So they have nothing to, you know, they're just going in there completely with nothing. And that was shot really well. And you believe it all. You believe that those guys could actually do that.
Yeah, I was actually wondering if they were going to kill people, because they, you know, they're trained to not necessarily just kill someone, you know? So I was wondering, are they going to grab everyone, keep them as prisoners? But they started killing them. And I was like, this is exactly what would happen in the real world. They would start to put aside their, you know, duties as part of the U.S. Navy and have to really become people, normal people in this situation of survival. Yeah. You know, so I thought that was great too. I was glad that they didn't just take everyone and keep them as prisoners or something. Yes, kill them. Take those guns. Cool.
And Danny's moves. Those were the ones that stood out to me. I mean, the neck snapping, the back breaking, and the sound effects. It was insane. I couldn't
go to sleep. Go to sleep. That's what he did.
Right?
Yeah.
And I also loved in this scene when they snuck past the old lady.
Oh, yes.
She's kind of looking down, and she looks up, and they're saying shh, and she's like, what am I supposed to do right now? And they kind of just sneak past her. It's like, what would you do in that situation?
She's like, you go.
Yeah.
She's like,
I did.
I think
praying it works. She's just praying it works.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Alex, how was shooting these action scenes? You know, you got beat up, and then you got to kill somebody.
It's all so much fun. It's as much fun as it sounds like. But that's what I mean about this type of thing taking a long time, because those things the camera angles have to be just right, and we have to work everything out. And it's so much fun to fight and to be beaten up and to stab somebody. It's just
Did you have any training?
Yeah, I've been at this for a long time, so I get beat up a lot and I beat people up a lot.
Remember, he's a drug lord.
That's right. Sometimes, yeah.
Drug
We're
lord.
Hispanics. We get these roles here.
But because you in the stabbing scene, because that's what this scene builds up to. I mean, Slattery, Chandler, and Danny go into this full force. They pass. It was one of your daughters in the bed.
When they go in,
and they sneak through that. They find out where El Toro is, and it all builds up to this big scene. And you think that I thought they were going to shoot El Toro, and that was going to be it. But then you pop out of nowhere and stab him in the back. How was that to shoot? Because a stabbing scene, to me, I mean, I feel like it's definitely all about the camera angles and getting everything just right. But how does a scene like that work?
Well, there was, I wish I could remember his name, but there was a Navy consultant on the set who literally said, like, well, this is how I stab people in the back.
Wow.
So we said, all right, that's what it's going to be. And it really helped a lot. As I mentioned, the actor playing El Toro, Jose, he and I know each other. And we're friends. And it makes it really easy because he knows he can trust me and I know I can trust him. And so I can really just dig in. And we were like, very much in sync. And he's got this big speech at the moment. He's sort of like shouting out, "Yeah, take me away. I'll live in your ship. I'll be so happy, And so he's sort of just exposing himself like this, and I come up around, and so it's all has to do with like working out all the timing and everything. But ultimately, then it's just building up the idea of how many months of torture we've been put up with,
right.
And then I'm finally going to strike back.
It was your moment to shine.
Yeah, my moment to shine, and the moment for the blood on the knives to shine.
When you say dig in, that actually makes it sound like you stabbed El Toro.
So I've got this. So we've got two knives. We've got this, rubber knife, and then we've got the real one. So the first one is I'm coming in with this rubber knife, and I'm flipping it just at the last second to really make it look like I'm just digging right up into his kidney here, and then whipping it out. And then I pause, and then he falls out. They pause the camera. A guy comes in, takes that knife out of my hand, puts the real one in with the blood dripping, so that it all matches in the shots. And that's how they do the magic.
And that's how it's done. Wow. It's cool to know. Because when you're watching, you don't think of how it's been put together. You're so lost in the story and lost in what is happening. But when we actually sit down with you, it's really interesting to learn how this happens.
That's why it's important to take all that time so that you never think about it. You're just involved in the story. That you were talking about the scene at dinner when it's all of us sitting at the dinner table. Whenever you shoot, I shoot a lot of TV shows, and a lot of times it's scenes around a table. Those are the ones that take the longest to shoot, because you're at a table and there's 4 people at the table, which means the camera has to be here to shoot this guy, then it has to be here to shoot this guy, then it has to be here to shoot this guy, then it has to be here to shoot this guy, then it has to be here to catch Karina walking around the table. It takes a long time. And so, but when you take that kind of care, then you can cut together, like the editors did here, a seamless scene where you're not thinking about where the camera is. You're just emotionally involved in it. And as you say, they can just cut to a look on my face, and we get the whole story without having to have all this expositional dialogue explaining anything, So it takes a long time, but when it's done well like this, it's really worth it.
Yeah, definitely. It really is done well, and that's what we love most about this show. The fact that it is, like you said, Monse, it's like mini movie every week.
Yeah.
Is that somewhat how it felt when you were on set? Did you feel like...
Oh, yeah.
It is?
Yeah, it felt a lot. Like I said, a lot of TV shows are kind of by rote, and they have a lot of sound stages, and we go in and we do this. But this one really did feel more like a feature film. It's still on the television pace, but in terms of the detail, it really felt like a feature film shoot. And then we're out on location in that jungle. It really looked like a jungle, and we're wearing the real clothes, and it was very exciting. I really enjoyed working on this.
You did.
How did you prepare for the role? Do you have a routine you like to do?
No, it all depends on the different characters. This character really sort of came easy to me, and I sort of just got out of the way and let it happen. And I worked a lot on just the relationship to my daughters. I don't have daughters of my own, so I'm just sort of imagining how important that would be to me, and then you just let everything else work, because if that's what's driving you, then you can imagine what you would do if you were in that situation, and the shame you would feel, and the anger you would feel, and the need to do something about it. So it's well written, and when it's well written, it's much easier.
That's interesting that you say the role came easy to you, because you don't have children, and you would think that would make it somewhat harder for you to get into the role. When you were really in the role, did you believe that these, well, obviously you believed that they were your children, but how, isn't it an interesting feeling knowing that you don't...
It's all, no, I understand.
question.
It's the whole basic acting stuff.
Yeah.
Is that it's all imaginary. So
How
even
to
if you have
connect.
daughters, these are not your daughters, and your daughters are not in that situation. But so you're still going to make it a leap of imagination at some point or another. But the young lady who played my daughter, I'm Cuban from Miami, and she was Cuban from Miami, so that we had this connection right away. And I could, she was very nice and very young and pretty, and she's out here with all this life ahead of her. And I just think, like, Karina has this whole life ahead of her, and and instead of living the life she should be living, she's living as a sex slave to this horrible man that I have, been helping. It doesn't take that much when it's a situation put together that well. It doesn't take that much if you're able to just sort of let yourself believe in the imaginary circumstance that to get there.
Now, did you think Karina's character looked down on you because of what was happening?
Yeah, I think basically what got her killed is that she's not like me, where she's practical and keeps her mouth shut and just goes along with the program. She is a little headstrong, and that's basically what got her killed. That she saw her opportunity. Chandler and Slattery were there, that means that the saviors may be here. So instead of pretending like everything's fine, let me speak out now and these guys will do something about it. But she's young and she doesn't understand the reality of the situation, and they got her killed.
He was very
but
courageous.
Then she kind of and you think about it, it's her doing that is kind of sacrificed herself, but in a way sort of saved the village because it pushed all the events forward, you know?
Yeah.
Absolutely, because I think by that time, obviously they didn't like El Toro and they thought there was something wrong, but I don't think they were absolutely sure what was going on in the village and the situation that they were living. I know that they think, okay, well, they're getting us food and whatever we need to survive, and they give us the infrastructure and safety. But I think at that moment when she stands up and they realize that they're using these girls, you know, they're literally sex slaves, and they do whatever they want, and they're like, okay, this is really messed up.
Yeah, and was it Slattery or Chandler that said that everyone else isn't living with the covers over their head? They're in the jungle, living in small little tents. El Toro's living large and living life, and a life of luxury compared with how everyone else is living. And I think all these things were just ticking in her mind and realizing that I'm being abused and taken care of, and I don't think she understood where you were coming from, because that's she's how old? What did it say? How old she was? She was
very young. She's 13.
Yeah, so she's young. She has an immature mind. She doesn't understand the idea of where you're coming from.
Yeah.
That is very
It's
true.
not like I've got a great argument, but she doesn't understand.
Definitely. So to go back, well, through this episode, we saw a lot of Rachel and Tex really getting to know each other more and somewhat developing their relationship. We first see them on the boat. They get taken back to the ship because it's not safe. Chandler says, you have to go back. It's not safe for you to be around here. We don't want you, obviously, to get infected. And it keeps coming back to the ship. Obviously, Rachel, she has that gut instinct that something wrong has happened. And she was right. Everything wasn't going to plan. Yes, they got back safe, but something wasn't going right, and they were in danger. But we get to see this interesting connection between Tex and Rachel developing.
Right, because Tex has been going after Rachel for a few episodes now, making very smart comments, you know, about how great she is and how she's not in the Navy, so she can have a relationship if she wants.
Right.
But she's always being the very tough and in a way even like mean and straightforward with him. And this was the first episode that she actually shows some interest.
Definitely. And we get a little bit kind of a different side of Tex.
Yes.
It's not that brash, I just want
redneck.
Yeah, exactly. And I just want to kind of be with you.
Yeah.
Because there's no one else on this ship that I can really be with that's going for me. It's more the gentle side of him.
Yeah.
And when they sit down and they're eating, you really, well, he gets Rachel to open up, and we find out that her, I don't know if I should say significant other, because it's not really, but he is a musician,
journalist.
A journalist.
That
That was
travels
it.
a lot.
A journalist that travels a lot. So that's why we now know that he comes in every couple months because he's traveling for his job. So it didn't. We realize now that it's not as black and white as when Quincy said it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Tex got her to open up in using his emotional side, right? He was talking a little bit of philosophy, and right at the beginning of the episode, I even wrote it down. He said, you underestimate people's capacity for forgiveness. Because she said, I don't go upstairs to eat with everyone because they all hate me, because I lied to them. And I think he said that to her, and it kind of hit home. He said, I think you're the one who's not forgiving yourself. And that was the point when she felt, you know what, this guy's not such a idiot. You know, he's nice and he's right. I think it hits home to her, and she finally realized that the problem is not other people hating her, it's her not forgiving herself. But it's great to see the relationship. I liked where it's going. I think it's a little odd, and it kind of changed the cards because we're always talking about Chandler and Rachel.
Right.
Yes, I know. I wish Bobby was here because Bobby would be so on this topic. Bobby's always like, they're going to get together. He always thought that Rachel and Chandler were going to end up getting together. And now seeing that, I think is great. I don't want Chandler and Scott and Dr. Scott together. No, he's a family. He doesn't know. Let's wait until we know about the family. But I'm glad that this love story is evolving. Whether it might not even be a love story. They might just be friends. But it makes me happy that it didn't go with what we were all expecting it to go to, which was Chandler and Dr. Scott. So
Yeah.
I don't buy that 2% body fat though, but whatever.
Yeah, Hollywood's full of lies.
Did you get to work with that group that was on the boat at all?
No, I only worked with Chandler Slattery and the other guys, so that it was just the stuff in the village.
In the village.
The guys who actually made it because they sent the other boat back.
Yeah. Because at first they went to the front part of the island where they thought, that's where Rachel thought that the monkeys were going to be. She thought that was
that's where
opening.
the reserve was.
The opening to the reserve. So she thought that they could get in that way. But they come across this was a freaky scene too, because they come across a lot. These people are kind of zombie-like. They look starved. Were they sick?
Yeah, they definitely had the virus.
Do you think they have the virus? I don't
think
know,
so.
because at the beginning of the show, or like the very first episode, don't they die within 2 days?
Yeah.
2-3 days.
I don't think those people have only been there 2-3 days.
Exactly.
I thought that they were definitely sick. Something is up, but I don't know if I don't know if I believe that it's the same virus that's going around the world.
I don't know if it was clear, but when they first arrive on that side, and the woman comes out of the jungle, she's carrying a baby, and she's telling help us. And then when they're leaving, they see the people on the beach, and that lady is there, but her baby's not there.
Right, I did notice.
Like,
Yeah,
I didn't know.
so her baby has died, and that's the last thing they're seeing is that they may have done something to help this other side, but then these people, there's
Right.
nothing they can do.
Yeah.
And that was an interesting thing for me.
Who knows how many
because-
times El Toro just sends people over there,
Right,
and then they,
exactly.
right. That
Right.
they could have been from.
could have just been a
from
couple
your
days,
village,
yeah.
and they just got sent over every
Yeah.
time that they might, made them mad.
Yeah, exactly. And it was interesting that they chose to help the people in your village. They didn't want to, not that they didn't want to help, but they didn't think that these people at the start, at the front of the island, were safe. And they didn't believe that, not that it was worth their time, but they didn't, even when they came out at the end and they're all on the beach walking into the water. I mean, again, it's like pulls on your heartstrings that these people just want help, but they didn't stop for them, and they kept on mission when they saw these people at the start.
I mean, really, what were they supposed to do? In their mind, these people were sick. They can't risk for anybody in their team to get sick or get the virus, or even worse, bring the virus to the ship.
The best thing to do is to get the monkeys back to the ship
Yeah.
and try to start to find out if there's an answer to the virus. That's one of the reasons I like this show, is because to me it's very much like Star Trek, where they go from place to place and they have a certain mission that has to do with one specific thing, and they have sort of, like they say in Star Trek, a prime directive, which is they don't get involved in the lives of the people they go to. But in this case, they're forced. They can't walk away with that kind of injustice happening and without doing something about it. And so when I first read the script, I said, oh man, this is like Star Trek. This is awesome.
It really is, now that you said it.
But I agree. I don't think it was ever an option of going to save them. I thought it was just, what I really liked about that is that they just felt so good about helping your village and your people. And they're going home, they feel good about it. And then all of a sudden they have to see this one last time.
It's heartbreaking.
Reality.
Like, that is, to that I didn't even think about. You can't help them. No, you didn't have anything to really realistically help them. You have to go get the virus and then eventually come back. I just really liked how it went from this feeling of really good, we just did the best possible thing for these people, we feel good, let's go back to our people, and then it hits
Reality.
home again.
Yeah.
Exactly. I loved the way we saw that. And they were just staring at them. Like, and did you see? Chandler didn't even look. He just kept looking straight. He knew that they were there. But it's like, what was he going to look for?
Yeah.
But they were all just there, watching them sail away.
That's the good writing. They
Yeah.
give us this big heroic finish, and we get supposed to feel good about it, and then the sort of the denouement, as they say, is that the world is still in a terrible state, and these people that we're looking at right now are terribly sick, and there's nothing we can do to help them right yet. So.
Yeah, it's a smack back down to earth in reality. So you do enjoy watching the show?
Yeah. It's like I say, it's exciting. A lot of shows that are these sort of like there's an ongoing story, but they're also kind of standalone. So you can watch an episode, and even if you haven't followed other things, you can get into a very interesting story that follows this. You can catch up pretty quick, and it's exciting. And they're good actors and good writing. So I do very much.
Is it like that with every show that you've done? You've enjoyed watching? Because I can't.
Let's say yes.
But that shows the idea and the way that this has been directed, produced, filmed, everything. It shows when the actors actually want and enjoy watching. I feel like that must say a lot for the show.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because a lot of sometimes you do a show and you maybe don't even get around to watching it.
Right.
But this is exciting, and we knew a lot of detail that went into it. Paul Holohan, who directed this episode, I've worked on 2 other shows before this, and so I was looking forward to seeing it. I knew it was going to be good, and I was right. It was good. Yeah.
And that's why the viewership keeps staying at a constant, I think it's like 7.2 million per episode.
On cable, that's huge.
Yeah, exactly. And it just keeps staying there, and people keep wanting to tune in. I mean, this show has got such a big roar around it. People are loving watching it. Yeah. They really are.
It's a really great show.
It really is.
Yeah, there hasn't been one episode that I'm like, it was so. Like every episode, I'm like, this is so great. It really is like watching an action film every time.
I just like that I feel like it's not an hour, that it goes by very quickly. That's when I know if it's a very entertaining episode. Hours can take a little long. I love that by the end of it, I'm like, oh my goodness, it's already over. And we've been mentioning, you've done a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
You've been a bad guy, again, drug dealer. You've been funny, Devious Mates, you're kind of like a comedic relief on that. But you kind of have a passion for theater.
Yes.
You direct a theater company, don't you?
Not the company. I'm a director at the company.
You're a director at the company. What's the name of the company?
It's called Pacific Resident Theater in Venice, where you live.
Yes, we're just talking about it.
Awesome.
I want to go check it out.
Oh, we should definitely go.
We just had a production that I directed of Shakespeare's Henry V, which ran for 5 months there, which is very unusual here in Los Angeles to sold out houses. We just closed it yesterday. And this morning, we loaded in the set for the next play, which is this crazy West Virginia comedy called, it's a series of comedies called Out There on Fried Meat Ridge Road. And we've been doing those for a couple of years, and they're kind of like a cult. It's sort of like a cult hit comedy show. And this next episode is called Fried Meat 3, The Unfriable Meatness of Being.
Oh my God, that is so great.
I got meat from
wow.
I love meat in that state. I'm not sure. It sounds
These are
wonderful.
plays, I'm telling you, these plays have been such crazy hits. People come see them sometimes 4 or 5. There's a lady who's seen him 25 times.
Wow.
There's one guy, I'm not kidding, he saw the original play 50 times.
Good for you.
50 times.
That just shows
normally
how...
I'd want that person institutionalized, but in my case, I'm
like,
very
yes.
happy that he's
that
there.
just shows how great these pieces are that you're directing. I mean, these are great shows that you are putting on. Obviously, for someone to come 50 times.
I hope so. Unless he's unstable, I think that says that we're doing good stuff. And like I said, the Henry V we got a lot of great reviews and accolades, and these shows. It's kind of different because Henry V is Shakespeare, and this one is not Shakespeare, but it's the fans just love it, and we just love doing it.
So is directing kind of like your day job? Is that how you like to
No,
do
actually,
it?
my acting on television is kind of my day job. That's what pays the bills, and then I spend all my time in the theater directing plays, which is what I kind of love doing, and I love acting them in them as well. But I'm very fortunate that I work a great deal in television, and it subsidizes my addiction to the theater.
Definitely. You're from Miami, and you've done shows such as CIS Miami, and then you moved over to NCIS Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
What with these shows, you've done Transformers, Revenge of the Fallen, and then it goes over to things like Family Guy that you've done voiceover for.
Yeah.
How do you adapt and kind of enjoy both beings? Do you have to put a different head on to do such a funny voiceover for such a great show?
No, I mean, when you go record Family Guy, you record often, at least I did, with Seth MacFarlane. Okay, so I'm doing my character in the scene, and he's playing everybody else in the scene.
It's amazing.
And he does Stewie, and he does what's the father's name? I can't remember.
Peter.
Peter, and he talks to you. Hi, I'm Seth. We just talk, and then he does these characters, and I mean, it's so much fun, and you know, it's. I've been doing voiceover for a long time, so it's kind of like I've got the right mindset where you know you're only going to use your voice. So it's an interesting challenge, but it's a lot of fun. And Family Guy is just I've only done a couple of them, but I did an American Dad. But man, that was really fun to work with Seth MacFarlane because he just goes off.
I bet.
You also do video games. I mean, he does it all. Yeah. Just look him up. He does it all. You'll find him on something you love.
Yeah.
Even video games.
I was out on the corner here playing the guitar when you guys found me.
Is video games something you enjoy, or you just kind of fell into because of the voiceover?
When I first got to LA in 19, I started out in voiceover, and I did a lot of animation and video games, and I always played. It was all these action video games like Call of Duty and stuff, and I'm always the guy who like gets shot, and so it's you show up at 9 o'clock in the morning and you have a cup of coffee. Hi everybody, you put on your headphones. Are you ready? Okay, let's go. Ah! You know, so I was really good at doing that. So, but I've done a lot. I've done a lot. I've done a lot of different stuff. I haven't done a lot of video games lately because I've fortunately been really busy on television. But I'm always open because they are fun.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite? Would you say theater maybe is your favorite?
Yeah, I think so. But that pays that pays by far the least. Yes, the cup of coffee.
The cup of coffee you need to get to your day television.
But I don't mean to like denigrate television because I really have gotten a great deal of. I enjoy the people that I work with, and I was on this great series that was on ABC this year called Killer Women. That was just an amazing experience, and it's led to a lot of continued work for me. And I've been fortunate that for the most part, I've been on sets with people who are good people, who like to work, who like to get along. And that's you know, we hear all the horror stories, but the fact is like 70-80% of the time, everybody's cool. You know, everybody knows, man, I got a really good job here. I'm just gonna kick back and enjoy it. I'm not gonna make, you know. So I just think I'm really lucky.
Awesome.
Amazing.
Well, unless you guys have any more questions, we do have a little bit of incredible news for the last ship.
AfterBuzz TV News.
So the last ship has been renewed for 13 more episodes. This season's 10 episodes, so season 2 is going to be 13 episodes. What do you guys think we can expect for season 2? Because in my mind, I have a little bit of... I don't know. I don't know how they're going to play this out.
I just hope it's as good as season 1. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm really worried. You know, the plot is very limited in a way. You know, they're in the ship, they're going around, and they're trying to figure out this vaccine. So unless, you know, maybe by the end of this season, they'll have a vaccine. And then next season, they'll be, you know, inland. Mm-hmm. So that would be very different. And I think that would be a good way to go. But if they have too many seasons of just the same thing, of being on a boat and trying to survive, it might get a little boring and repetitive. So I just hope, I'm sure they will, because the writing is so amazing. They'll come up with something that is going to be very exciting and blow our minds.
Well, the guy Hank Steinberg, like I said, he ran Without a Trace, and that went for like 7 years.
Exactly.
He figured out how to keep telling that story and keep it fresh. Yeah. It was a procedural, granted, but I feel like, I keep going back to the Star Trek thing, but every time they land someplace else, that changes that can change everything. Mm-hmm. Anything can happen wherever they happen to get off the ship, you know, so.
I agree. I can't predict what's going to happen in the second season. I can barely predict what's going to happen next week. So.
And you saw the trailer.
Exactly. Yeah, I can barely predict that. So when the season 1 finale airs, I'll tell you what I think might happen for the second season. I agree though. I think it could keep going. It's just, they just have to be smart about it. Mm-hmm. But any shows that I've seen that I'm just like, how could this keep going? Movies, how could this keep going? And it does.
And they do.
So this is going real well. I don't see why it wouldn't succeed for another second season, but I'm looking forward to it. Are we going to see you again? Can you tell us?
Me?
Yeah, well,
Well, nobody's told me. If I knew, I would tell you, but nobody said anything to me.
I'll write a letter. I'll make it happen.
We'll make it happen.
I'll make it happen. I got you.
Speaking about predictions, let's get into some predictions for next week.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV.
We're taking off.
Star Trek.
All right, Alex, seeing as though you haven't watched next week's episode yet,
No.
what is your prediction?
Well,
Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. It's a tough question with the show. You never know what's going to happen.
I suspect that there is going to be some kind of revelation about things that are happening back home that everybody's trying not to think about. That something's going to come out that's going to affect the dynamic of the people on the ship.
That is a very interesting prediction.
And I think that something having to do with this vaccine is going to be not so positive.
He should have gone last. He stole my answer.
I have good vision. I read it all in my note.
Cheater.
What do you ladies think?
I agree. I think they're going to try the vaccines on the monkeys, and it's not going to be just ready. Something is going to go wrong, and they're going to have to figure it out and fix something. So that is one of them. Another one, I think they're going to keep playing a little bit the relationship between Tex and Rachel. I think there even might be a kiss, whether both of them want it or not, or if it's just Tex attacking her.
Oh boy.
But I think there will be some sort of kiss, and that's what I had. But I do like the whole going back home, because they really didn't mention this last episode, which makes sense for them to, in the next episode, bring it up.
Yeah, we only got Chandler recording something that he doesn't know if it's even getting back to home.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a little bit more of maybe at least Chandler's family. Something to give us maybe hope or anything. Because we really don't know anything of what's happening to anyone's family that's on the ship. So I hope they do tie in a little bit. I think I agree, Tex and Rachel, I think we're going to see a little bit more of that. I also, you guys mentioned earlier that, we saw a little bit of the soft side for Mike Slattery. I still think he wants to be in command, because if you guys remember in the episode, Chandler says, I need all my best men with me. And Slattery does not want to go.
Yeah.
And he's like, that includes you. His face is just like, yes. So I still expect us to see more development when it comes to how he might eventually try and push Chandler overboard. No pun intended, but it's true. That's what I'm thinking. We're gonna see a little bit more of a clashing.
So you're saying sexual assault, and you're saying mutiny. Mutiny.
Yeah. Yep.
I agree
That's our
with you.
predictions.
I think that in this episode, Slattery's been portrayed in a way that kind of makes people maybe warm up to him a bit more. But I think in future episodes, he's still going to turn out to be somewhat the bad guy. I think that the monkeys that were given to them, something is not quite right with them, and the vaccine that is then tried on them, I don't think is going to be right. So I think it's going to go wrong. I think that is my mobile phone. I apologize about that.
It is not me.
It's the virus calling.
The virus calling. Uh-oh.
But I think that the monkeys aren't, so it's not going to work right on them. So then they think that something is wrong with the vaccine, when in essence, I don't think anything is going to be wrong with it. That's my prediction.
Well, they did show in the end of the episode that something is wrong in the boat, and they're all wearing masks, and
Exactly.
So
yeah.
it could
so
be it.
Yeah.
It could be it. All right.
Anyway, with our ringtone that's kind of going off and telling us to leave,
I really thought that was to say wrap it up.
where can the fans find you in the meantime until they see you next time?
You can see me out there on Fried Meat Ridge Road at Pacific Resident Theater, starting August 15th, and on Devious Maids, which just wrapped, but you can still see it on Lifetime.
Awesome. What about you guys?
You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Monse Bolanos.
You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Rena Brazil.
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at CharlotteB_TV and on my website, charlottebroadbenttv.com. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you for coming to join us.
Thank you.
It's been
great
fun.
Thanks for having
a lot
me.
of fun. Thank you. And we'll see you guys next week.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.
Thank you for watching AfterBuzz TV on YouTube. For more of your favorite after shows and interviews, subscribe to our channel here, and be sure to share your opinion on the episode in the comment section below here. We'd love to see what you guys are buzzing about. Thanks again. Buzz you later.